God bless America. Hello, everybody. I am the Talk Radio Protege. This is the Protege program. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy Friday. Thank you for spending the last few minutes of your work week with me. And I am looking forward to unplugging this weekend. I hope that you all are as well. But before we do that, it's time to talk about the news from the last day of the work week. And I want to lead off with this piece. Not piece so much, but projections from 538. You might remember 538 is Mr. Nate Silver's website. He's considered like the prophet of pollsters among the left. I don't know how he got this reputation, but his word is the Bible to the left, or something to that effect. You know, they love this guy. And he's predicting 3-to-1 odds that the Democrats are going to take control of the House in the November elections this year. And now, now I realize that I made a little bit of a mistake as I was doing my research today, because I just remembered in this exact moment that it's Nate Silver that runs 538 and not Frank Luntz. So you know what we're going to do? We're just going to throw that one away. But I am going to ask you this. I am going to ask, how much longer are we going to be forced to sit here and listen to how all of the people that got it so wrong in 2016 are now so right in 2018? How are we going to do that? My question, how many polling agencies got the 2016 election right? Because that's the agencies we should be listening to in 2018. And if I'm not mistaken, the Rasmussen poll is the only poll that did get 2016 correct. And they are not predicting as good a chances for Democrats as all of these other much farther to the left-leaning polling organizations are. We've talked a little bit at length about why Rasmussen is different from other polling organizations. The short version is Rasmussen polls who they call likely voters rather than eligible or registered voters. And the reason is simple. Registered voters are not automatically likely voters. And I'm not sure what metrics Rasmussen measures their likely voters against, but the long and short of it is, how long are we going to listen to the people that made predictions that Politico decided they needed to compile because it was so bad for these political sages, as they're called? We're not going to go through all of these predictions, but I just wanted you to know, as you are forced to listen to this poll says this and it's bad for Republicans, this poll says this and it's bad for Trump, this poll says this and it's bad for the right wing. They all got it wrong in 2016. They all got it terribly, tremendously wrong. And now we're supposed to pretend, I guess we're supposed to pretend like 2016 didn't happen and just trust that these people are using these polls to measure public opinion and not shape public opinion, as we know they have done in the past. But I don't want to spend too much time talking about that. I want to talk about a different indicator as to how good of a job this president and his administration and the Republicans, when they choose to implement his policies, are doing. This might not seem like a clear indicator of the economy to you at first glance. In fact, when I saw it, I kind of dismissed it offhand. But it actually is a very important indicator of how the economy is doing. The Wall Street Journal has this story, and because it's the Wall Street Journal, I don't think we're going to be able to see much of the story, but you can see the headline here. Backlog for big rigs, those are the hauling trucks, the 18-wheelers and whatnot, stretches to 2019. Manufacturers of 18-wheelers can't keep up with the demand. Do you know what this means? This is an extremely good thing for manufacturers of big rigs. It also means that manufacturers of goods that need to be shipped by 18-wheelers are doing so good that they need to expand their fleets. They need to buy more 18-wheelers. Or organizations that maybe aren't so big that they have their own 18-wheelers. The smaller organizations that contract out their shipping are doing so good that they're forcing their contractors to go out and buy more big rigs. Everybody is doing so good, at least the people that are trafficking in physical material. Everything is going gangbusters when big rigs are on a backlog. You know, I first saw this headline, and I'm not sure what I was thinking, but I wasn't thinking, oh, this is a good economic indicator. But now, of course, it's obvious that this is a good economic indicator. Just like a labor shortage, well, not a labor shortage, a jobs surplus. So a labor shortage in one sense, but a jobs surplus is a good indicator of how it is an indicator of good economic progress, because it means that workers are going to be able to command higher wages. So as the left continues to try and spin a message of doom and gloom and terror to their voters to try and scare them into voting Democrat, the economy, if you're intelligent enough to see the signs, sometimes you need a little bit of prodding like I did today, but if you can see the signs, the economy is pointing up, nearly straight up at this point. We're doing excellent as far as the economy goes. This brings me to something else that I want to just mention kind of in passing. The economy is doing fantastic right now. So the safest prediction that one can make is to say that the economy is ready for a downward turn. And one headline that I saw is that there's an economic, they call him an expert or wizard or whatever, but this economic expert is making a prediction that the previous 9 years of growth, albeit 6 or 7 of them were anemic levels of growth, but is predicting that the past 9 years of growth are about to turn into a downward spiral. And of course, when you're on the top of the mountain, the only way you can go without building up is down. So economists that are telling you that we're ready for that the market is ready for another burst are simply observing the obvious. You know, we're at a peak at this point. We've gone extremely high very fast. So it's kind of a duh statement to say that we're ready for another downward turn. So I am not a financial expert, so don't take anything that I tell you as gospel. But if I had the money to throw around in the stock market, I would be looking to sell at the moment because we are at such a high in terms of the stock market. But let's not get bogged down in that, taking my advice on something that I know almost nothing about. The last story that I want to talk about today is from the media's new favorite darling of the left, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And if you don't like I can't even think of the word now. My impression of a Spanish accent, well, I'm American, so there. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez banned the media from her latest town hall event. Now, this is from Mediaite, which is like a third-tier media organization. This is Mediaite is to the New York Times what I am to somebody like Computing Forever on YouTube. And I assume that if you're following people like me, you're probably following bigger names on YouTube that say similar things to me. So, you know, of course, I am minuscule compared to those bigger voices. Mediaite is minuscule compared to CNN, New York Times, etc. And Mediaite is the only place where I've seen this headline. Why? Because it's a left-winger doing something that last week, I think it was last week, the media were beating Trump bloody over doing something not even the same, just kind of like this. Last week, I'm going to keep saying last week because I'm pretty sure it was last week, but last week, Trump kicked a single journalist out of a press event, and the reason given was she asked a question during a no questions please segment. And I talked about how the media had no problem, the media at large. There were a few people that spoke up, one person in particular, but the media at large had zero problem complying with Barack Obama's no questions please press conferences. In fact, the one that comes to my mind where somebody asked a question at Obama's no questions please press conference, all of the other reporters chased that guy away from the press conference. The same thing does not happen to reporters who ask Trump a question during no questions please press conferences, because of course there's a double standard when it comes to the mainstream media. But anyways, Alexandria decides somebody asked a question at a no questions please press conference, so now you all can't come in. I'm going to show you the paragraph where this direct line comes from. But Ocasio-Cortez has been conducting a quote-unquote listening tour throughout the 14th district to talk to local residents. Campaign spokesman Corbin Trent said the ban was the campaign's response to an incident last week where Cortez met with healthcare activist A.D. Barkin, and the two of them were quote-unquote mobbed by journalists, despite it being a non-Q&A event. Trent told the Chronicle that the ban should be temporary and that the campaign is still interested in maintaining an open relationship with local media. So what does... Now, I don't know what mobbed means. It could just mean that media were trying to get close enough to Cortez to hear the conversation that she was having with Barkin. It could be that journalists swarmed and began shouting questions. You would think that that would be the case because they mobbed Cortez at a non-Q&A event, and that was their rationale for banning them from this event. But the media is not saying anything about their darling banning the media from an event in response to something that they did during a Q&A event. Spoiler alert, this is exactly, almost word for word, simply smaller in scope, or bigger in scope, depending on your point of view, what Trump did to a single reporter in response to what she did at a no questions please press conference. And they will not breathe a word. If you don't regularly check out Mediaite or a news aggregation website like Drudge Report that pulls from Mediaite, you're not going to know that Cortez did this. You're just not. Because the New York Times is not going to tell you, CNN is not going to tell you, MSLSD is not going to tell you, the Washington Compost is not going to tell you, the Huffington Puffington Post is not going to tell you. They don't care about what their people do that they smash Trump for. They just don't, because it's their team. And I know people are going to point fingers at me. If anything comes up in the future that I've decried the left doing in the past, and now somebody on the right does, people are going to point fingers at me and say, why don't you criticize Trump for doing what you criticized? Let me just take a brief moment here and lay out my opinion on press conferences. And Cortez can kick whoever she wants out of her press conferences. I don't care. You know, it's her campaign that she's running. If she doesn't want to talk to the media, fine. I'm allowed to draw conclusions about that, I think. But it's her campaign. She can run it the way that she wants. If she doesn't want to talk to the media, that's fine. Should I not be allowed to say that it might look like she's hiding something from the media if she does that? But she's not doing that. And I'm not even talking about Cortez banning people from the media here. I'm talking about the left-wing media is not going to tell you this story because they just got done berating Trump about it. and now somebody on their team is doing it. They're not going to come out, they're not going to tell you about it so that they can defend her. They're not going to tell you about it so that they can rationalize. And they're not going to say anything about it so that they can tell you why it's wrong that Trump did it, but right that Cortez did it. Me, myself, I'm telling you, as far as these press conferences go, not talking to the media does not show that you don't care about First Amendment rights. It just shows that you don't want to talk to the media. You have something to hide, you think they're adversarial, whatever. Doesn't matter to me. So if Trump comes out tomorrow and bans the media from one of his press conferences, don't expect me to jump all over Trump about it. I might not talk about it because there's plenty of other people to talk about these things. I'm a little guy. There's not a lot that I can talk about that you are going to hear exclusively from me on, but I like to try and pick things that I think this could be something that the only place they're going to hear it from is me and the publication that I'm pulling it from. I got off a little bit and ranted about that some, but that's going to do it for this video. I hope that you all enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Hit subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so that you don't miss future videos. Thank you so much for watching this one. I hope that you'll come back and join me for the next one, which will be Monday. Make sure that you check back then for a new report. Until then, have a good night and a great weekend, and God bless.